Welcome to Kingdomize, the podcast, where we discuss how to see our lives and our world through a kingdom lens, how to infuse kingdom culture into our families, our workplaces, and our cities, as we all participate in the dream of Jesus to see his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. So welcome to Kingdomize, the podcast. And it is a day that we've all waited for. You've been waiting for this day, right, Ian? This day where we start our new series called Solutionaries, the Solutionaries. And we are so excited about this. We've been talking about this, man, probably for 6 months, planning and talking to others and talking internally about what this could look like. And really what this series is about is telling other people's stories. We're going to have other people for 2 years now that we've been doing this podcast. It's been you and I and Bruce and the four of us mainly. And now we want to tell other people's stories from around the globe, people that are changing their world, like literally. So, Ian, this is going to be fun, telling other people's stories.
It's going to be awesome. I think we both know most of these people personally. I think all of the people we know personally, and have had full integration into their lives and actually know they're not blowing smoke. We've actually been there. We've seen it. They're doing it. We've experienced it with them, which is really exciting.
Yeah. It's going to be so good, so good. So we're talking about solutionaries, and that may not be a word you recognize very much because, well, I'm not going to say we made it up. We thought we made it up. It's one of those words I thought I made up again, but I actually found it on the Urban Dictionary, And they say that a solutionary is someone who finds revolutionary ways to answer life's problems. They're a problem solver, an inventive activist, a type of revolutionary that makes change by providing a better way to do things. Little quote here. We had a problem. They found the answer. They're not just revolutionary. They're solutionary. Thank you, Urban Dictionary, for that. And so
Beautiful.
It's people with solutions. It's people that engage. They're solutionaries. And so I was thinking as we're getting ready for this, as the introduction for this series, Solutionaries, I was going back at my song memory bank because everything in my life connects to a song. And so I was thinking back to my radio days back in the early 2000s. And at that time, Kurt Franklin had an amazing song out called Revolution. And you've already told me you don't know it, but it was great. Everyone was singing. I mean, Kirk had his choir going, man. It was fantastic. And he would say, "Do you want a revolution? Whoop, whoop." It was back in the whoop, whoop. Do you remember the whoop, whoop days?
Ridiculously good.
Days. And as I was getting ready for this, I didn't think you were going to connect with that. You'd not whoop with me once. But I did also think of a little group called the Beatles. And I thought a good Brit like yourself, you might connect with them. And they had a song back in the 60s called Revolution. You're going to sing a little bit of that for us, Ian?
So you say you want a revolution. We'll all change the world. How good is that?
That was so good. By the way, I listened to it earlier today, and they do start with a scream. Like George on the guitar, he just sets a beat for that, and then Paul just screams. It was fantastic. So I was hoping I'd get the scream as well, but I didn't get it. Yeah, so they say, you say you want a revolution, we'd all love to change the world. Second verse starts like this, which I think is great. They say you've got a real solution. We all like to see the plan. And that's a solutionary. So I'm not advocating for everything the Beatles did. I will not do that. I know you might as a Brit. But this song, they say you want a solution. We'd all like to see the plan. And that's what solutionaries do, Ian. They don't just see problems. They actually go, we could solve this. And they don't just make a plan. They actually execute on the plan. So, yeah, we want to talk about that and set that up this week. So for the next number of weeks, who knows? It could be months. We don't know. We never know when we start how long this is going to go. But we're going to set this up. So, Ian, let's talk just briefly. And you've done this a number of times really well, so I'm going to let you do this. Let's talk briefly about Matthew 28, discipling nations. So what does it mean to disciple a nation, and how does that fit with being a solutionary?
So, of course, if you listen to this podcast anytime, you'll know that we've referred to this, and it's basically discipling a nation is not just discipling an individual. So Mark 16 is more about the individual. Matthew 28 is more about a culture or a nation or a yeah. So when we talk about discipling a nation has a culture, it has systems, it has processes, it has governance. And so we are looking at how do we bring heaven to earth to invade the immediate culture that we find ourselves in, that it begins to experience the goodness, the mercy, the kindness, the justice of God in a living way, in a practical environment where people thrive and flourish. And so discipling a nation or discipling a community will have all of those elements, all of those aspects will be a part of it.
Yeah, that's really good. And we've talked about under the banner of you can have the gospel of salvation, people get saved, and we would refer to that as the part of the Great Commission where bring the gospel to the individual, right, to every creature, right. But here, as you've said, Matthew 28 is a piece of the gospel that we haven't done so well. Like for 500 years, thank you, Luther. We're going to talk about Luther in a few minutes. Thank you, Luther. 500 years, we've really done Mark 16 fairly well. I think we've gone to the world. We've talked to people about they need Jesus. What I believe and what we're saying today is that this part of the gospel of the kingdom, the Great Commission is found in Matthew 28, discipling nations, is about bringing those kingdom solutions to real world problems. That's what we're saying. So you want a real solution? We'd like to see the plan. So that's what we're going to talk about. And so there you go. So Ian, let's just jump into this. We're going to do this in 3 areas. We're going to talk about Bible examples, going to talk about history examples, then we're going to talk about current day, maybe what others are doing. We're going to talk about that for a long time, but also what we're doing, why we do what we do. We haven't talked about that for quite a while, actually. So we're going to talk today about why we do what we do. So let's go biblical first. Let's talk about Joseph. What would you want to say about Joseph?
So Joseph is a remarkable story because he found himself in a place that he felt he had not planned. He found himself in a foreign land with foreign people, in a foreign environment. And although he didn't fully understand what was happening, God was at work for him to bring solutions to that particular nation. And of course, we all know the story. He was in jail, and the butler and wherever got kind of exterminated along the way, but he survived because he could interpret the dream. And as a result, he became number 2 in the land. And being number 2 in the land, he was able to solve some of the pressing issues. And there was a food security issue at the time all around. He brought a solution to that. His wisdom, his revelation, his understanding of processes and principles, his way of, we would call it food stacking and equity stacking, really helped to get that nation through an incredibly difficult period. And he was a solutionary.
Yeah, for sure. I often think of these biblical people, and sometimes you talk about them in church scenarios, and they go, wasn't Joseph a good pastor? Wasn't he just a great... Well, he was a great leader. I don't think he was ever a pastor. He was a great leader, and he led in the governmental realm. He led in the business realm. He just had his feet in all these different spheres on purpose, again, to bring solution. And it didn't start well for him. Like his dreams, although later they became the revelation that changed the world. Sometimes when we get dreams at the beginning, it doesn't go as well as we would have hoped. So he went from being the dreamer or the prophet to, the pit, ended up in the palace, and that didn't go well. So he got thrown into prison, and then eventually he becomes the prime minister that changes everything. Yeah.
And I got, and Brian, nothing changed. Like before this call today, before this podcast there, I was speaking to a good friend of ours, and he says, like, a particular verse that really came alive to him more recently was found in Luke chapter 4. And I think it's verse 43, and it says this, talking about Jesus: I must preach the good news of the kingdom of God in other towns, because this is why I was sent. And the gospel, the good news of the kingdom of God, is that we bring solutions. Jesus brought solutions, and he's expecting his church to bring solutions. And the church is basically the conduit for the kingdom of God to flow into society. And so, yeah, that was a powerful verse that he shared with me today.
When I hear that verse, it reminds me of the one in Acts that speaks back how Luke records what Jesus did. He said, Jesus went about doing good and healing all those affected by the devil. Like, it really is going into the devil's culture and going, yeah, that's not going to help people thrive. That's not going to. How do we bring abundant life? Like, Jesus was serious, we would say, in John 10 when he said he wants you to have abundant life. He doesn't want you to get stole from and killed as the thief would do. But how do you have abundant life? And we believe that that's what God wants. We would connect it as well to Matthew 5, right? About we're going to be a city on a hill. We're going to have salt and light. We're going to do good works so they see our works. We're going to do something. Again, it's not just a plan, but go execute it. We're going to do good things so people see it and glorify our Father in heaven. Well, that's really good. That's a lot of good Bible stuff. So let's just go down now to history. Let's talk about, and I mean, there's so many examples out of history, but I mentioned earlier about Luther. And Luther gets a lot of street cred about what he did 500 years ago, in the 1500s. So we've got a Reformation. Do you want a Reformation? Woot, woot. You know. We talk about the Reformation, and everyone points at Luther because, he tacks this, 95 theses, these 95 arguments he has about what the church is doing. But we don't want to talk so much about Luther today. Let's talk about his wife. Tell me about Luther's wife. Intriguing to me.
I love the story of Catherine Luther, an amazing lady. So her husband Luther was a professor in a university. They didn't pay him very much, but they gave him free accommodation. And in the free accommodation was almost a large monastery. And she's kind of thinking, how the heck do we keep this warm? How the heck do we survive here? And so she had this ingenious idea. Okay, why don't I turn a large part of the monastery into a housing unit for the students coming to the university? So she did that. And as she did that, she began to understand that, hey, if I grow my food rather than buy the food, there's a greater profit margin there, which will allow me to do other things. So the quality of the food went up. They had more food because she could produce more food. Eventually, it cascades that Martin Luther and Catherine Luther was the largest. After 30 years, they were the largest landowners in that whole region. So she brought solution to the students in terms of they had a good, warm place to live, to eat. She also began to inspire other people in the region that you don't have to survive, you can actually thrive. And she modeled farming in the area. She actually even created a beer. Can you imagine that? She created a beer, which is still available in Wittenberg today as an alternative to the water, because the water was not that brilliant. And so she became a solutionary in the world in which she lived. In that academia world, she became very practical in helping students and the community to thrive and prosper.
Yeah, amazing. If you want to follow this up a bit and what we're talking about, our friend Vishal Mingawati has a video out under the banner called Truth Matters. Just a short one. I think it's 6 or 7 minutes. And he talks about Martin Luther's wife, Catherine Katie Luther, and talked about it. And she was into housing, into farming, into fish farming. She was a businesswoman. She was an employer. She became just everything, a builder, brewery. And the phrase that Vishal uses in his video that stood out to me is that while Martin taught the Bible's work ethic, Katie practiced it. While Martin taught the Bible's work ethic, Katie practiced it. And I love that. And it's just, for me, that story's just not told enough, right? That in history, there are the people that, we need the teachers. We need the people that dig deeply into the word and go, hey, I think we missed this here. Like for us now today, Ian, we've already talked about this. Like, I think we missed the discipling nations thing. Let's talk about that, right? So let's dig it up. But somebody's got to take that. Okay, well, there's probably we need to put some feet to discipling nations then, right? And so, I love that. I love it. And You also love telling the story about Wilberforce, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because it's fantastic. Let's talk about that his story from the 1800s, 1780.
So William Wilberforce was a member of the British Parliament, and he was deeply moved by the injustice of slavery, where Britain was taking human beings from the west coast of Africa and selling them into North America and the Caribbean. And he felt there was a level of injustice, which there is a level of injustice about that. So he placarded the British Parliament that we have to stop this. This is immoral. It may not be illegal, but it is absolutely immoral. And he was poo-pooed. He was poo-pooed for over 40 years. He was poo-pooed. He was pressed down.
Is that the official statement, poo-pooed? Is that the ethical / governmental statement? He was poo-pooed. Sorry, I've interrupted you.
Anyway, he was marginalized. He was insulted because basically numbers of the MPs had a vested interest in that business, right? And so they didn't want that to be stopped. But after 42 years of placarding the Parliament, I might have given up a little earlier than that. But after 42 years, the streak of injustice inside of him would not give up. And he wanted the justice of God to come where all human beings are equal in the sight of God. And so what that did, that started cascading a liberation, literally of tens of millions of people around the globe became free. Why? Because he became a solutionary. He used his political powers. He used his political prowess so that something dramatic could happen in the economic systems of the world that was taking advantage of other human beings. And as a result of that, it's all history now. And it keeps unraveling, right? Because it is still cascading. I mean, it took a long time in other parts of the world for slavery to be abolished. And of course, it's still in existence in some parts of the world today. But he did something that dramatically changed the lives of tens of millions of people around the globe. He found out how to become a solutionary. He went with the feelings of injustice inside of him. He says, no, this has to stop. And I just love that story.
Yeah, it's so good. And I mean, you said it on the way by, but I'll just say it again. The idea of 42 years of beating the same drum. And I mean, it's not the only thing he was into, but it was the thing that he was known for. Like he was part of the Clapham sect, right? The group out of Clapham, they're 10, 12, eventually more than that, businessmen and women that really were solving problems. And one of the phrases they used, which I loved, was they were making goodness fashionable.
Yeah.
So good. Anyway, but also about Wilberforce that I read recently is that, I mean, it actually didn't happen while he was still in Congress, like while he was still in Parliament. He was on his deathbed when it went through. Like he died 3 days later. Like he heard about it on his deathbed that the vote finally went through to abolish slavery, and he died 3 days later. I mean, it's so amazing, right? So incredible.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
And as we said when we started, I mean, there's so many stories biblically and historically that we could talk about, but we can't do them all today. And we're going to tell a bunch of stories in the next few weeks, but let's turn it and talk about current discussions, Ian. And without sounding, you used the word braggadocious recently in a podcast. So without sounding braggadocious, I thought we should talk today about why we do what we do. We haven't done that for a while, and we can talk about some of the stuff that we are doing, but why do we do what we do? We had fairly normal lives at one time, right?
Absolutely. Look, I can remember some of those early conversations, and probably it was driven by my felt need. I need other people to help me because there are people who want to understand the kingdom better. There are politicians, there are business people, there are families, there are churches that want to know the kingdom better. I felt that there was no curriculum, there was no processes, there was nothing we could hand them. Everybody's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but there was nothing systematic that could actually help people move from, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. Okay, what do I do next? Give me the next steps. I don't need the next 500 steps. I just need the next 2 or 3 steps. And so the Kingdomize group, we began to meet for numbers of years, sometimes in person, almost every week online. And we said, okay, we have to do something, because we are not seeing anything out there of a systematic nature that helps to produce disciples of the kingdom, and we really want to do that. There is some great material out there on the kingdom, and there are people that have some interesting programs. For what we wanted to do, we wanted to provide pathways, simple pathways, and say simple, that doesn't mean they're easy, but simple pathways, to help people to integrate what we would call a theology into everyday practice. So whether they're in politics, or whether they're in business, or whether they're a family person, whether they're a church leader, whether a church attendant, we want to help them to do that.
Yeah, really good. And as you said along the way, it took a while for us to get our teeth into it, exactly how we wanted to say things. But I feel like over the last couple of years specifically, as we've been doing this podcast, we've been writing as we've been doing that. Most people know now that we've released our book, our first book, which will be the first of, right now we've got 11 books scheduled, books and courses on what we want to teach. So we're gonna really, the first one was just Kingdomize it. We've got a book we're going to release on kingdom worldview, kingdom lifestyle, kingdom leadership, kingdom impact in communities. So we have those books. We want to do books on all of the spheres of influence that we'll write. So there's at least 11 books in the queue that we're going to write with corresponding curriculum. And already along the way, so we've got a Kingdomize Your Business course. Ian, what's that?
Yeah, so we've had 4 or 5 cohorts with that. So the person that we're trying to help there is a person who has been reasonably successful in their business in terms of it's working, they're blessed, they're prospering, they have excess finance to help maybe the local church, maybe humanitarian organizations, maybe missions organizations. And after they've done all of that, they go, I thought there'd be more than that.
Yeah.
I thought there would be more than just giving away money, which I'm happy to give away money, but I want more than that. And so the Kingdomize Your Business course are for those kind of people who want to have legacy, who want to have a generational impact that is going to go beyond what they've done in their work life and will cascade maybe for decades beyond their life that they're living on the planet. And so it's a 12-week course. We meet every week. It's inspirational, it's practical, it's prophetic content in there. Ryan himself does 3 special one-on-one with the clients, and that has been quite transformational for many people that have done that. And so we're finding people are just now moving their needle from doing good business. And of course, we wouldn't position ourselves as business consultants, but we would position ourselves as kingdom consultants. We can help you get the kingdom into your company, into your employees, into your workspace, wherever your business is placed. We can get the kingdom to seep out beyond the 4 walls and where you work, and to see God's kingdom come and people helped and blessed and come to faith and their lives get better and thrive. That's what we do on KYB, Kingdomize Your Business. And yeah.
Awesome. Really good. Really good. And we've got other courses. So we have Kingdomize Your Business, Kingdomize Your City, another 12-week course on what to do about how to impact with the kingdom. So it has to do, first of all, with an internal kingdom culture, but then an external outflow of the kingdom. It's a both and. So how do you get kingdom culture internally with you and your team, and then out into the city? And how do you build bridges with other churches, other pastors, other business people, those in government? You actually have to do with all of them. An integration of all the spheres or mountains important. And so we have a course on that. We have a course on Kingdomize Your Marriage, Kingdomize Your Leadership, lots of stuff. So we want you to know that those initial thoughts that Ian talked about what we want to do when we started, we actually do this for the sake of obeying what Jesus said by getting his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven, to getting that to those that want to do that, or maybe even if you don't want to, we'll help you want that. We'll help you want that. There's teaching and training. It can happen over the weeks online. It can happen live as intensives, speaking and resourcing. And this is one of the things we want to mention. We've never mentioned this before on the podcast, but one of the main things that we're doing right now, both we're building our own center, but for others, is we're building what we're calling transformation centers. And the idea is to create a property where there's housing and there's ministry. And it's a physical location where people look at it and go, those people right there, those are the people that love our city and are bringing solutions real time to our city. And so it's going to be a place of resourcing and training and thing. It'll be a place of building the next generation, starting new businesses. So all these things we've talked about, all these different spheres, we are going to create a space to do that. And so we already have a number of places we're doing this, primarily in Canada right now, but we've started dialogues now into the States. So if you're hearing this, want to hear more about a transformation center, what that could do, ideally, it's a church or a nonprofit with a little bit of excess land, like 2-3 acres. We can help you by helping you build affordable housing and then other things that happen on your property. We can come in and teach and train you for that. So that's one of the things we're really excited about working with those groups, but not just them, but bringing solutions to cities through that one physical location called the Transformation Center. So yeah, we're excited about that, where that's going to go. So Ian, what would you say? We're at the end. I can't believe it already, but we're at the end. How would you wrap this up? This idea of being a solutionary. How would you wrap it up? What do you want to say before we invite in the rest of the world to come in and tell their stories? How do you want to wrap this up today?
I mean, many people feel intimidated. They say, I'm not entrepreneurial, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other. We believe the Creator God inside of people can give you actually solutions to actually very difficult problems that would make your community better, problems that would make your business better, problems that would make the political environment that you find yourself in. And so, look, we're in for the long game. We have no short-term fixes here. We are committed to bringing solutions on a generational basis. So we are standing on the shoulders of those that have gone before us, and we are hopefully building a platform for those who want to go forward. I have 2 children who, one would be Gen Z, and he would be very, very interested in bringing solutions to mankind. And I think as I'm talking to you now, there are some of you already being stirred up and go, can I do it? Can I do it? Look, we want to provide you inspiration, but we want to provide you help and coaching and counseling. If this is of interest to you, I would say listen to the next 2 or 3 podcasts on Solutionaries. See what people are doing around the globe, and then engage with us, and let's see how we can help you bring the kingdom of God to earth, because you are designed to be a conduit for the kingdom of heaven.
So, do you want a revolution? Start one. I think that's the deal. Just go ahead and start one. You can be that and start it, but start with a solution, with a plan, and then people can carry that out and work with you on it, and you'll build a team, and you'll love it, and you'll hate it, and you'll be excited about it, and God will bring blessing and honor you and those around you, and bless your cities and nations. So that's why we're here. That's why we talk every week and bring a new thing. We're excited about this podcast series, the Solutionaries, because you're going to hear stories again that inspire you, but not just go, that was a good story, but inspire you to do something to bring, as Ian just said, that creative nature of God that's inside you, bring it out to bring life and excitement and to people, organizations, cities, and nations so they thrive and flourish and have abundant life. And that's why we're here. So thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a great series called The Solutionaries over the next few weeks. Have a great Thanks for joining us today on Kingdomize, the podcast. Let's keep the discussion going throughout the week on our socials or on our website, kingdomizeglobal.com. Contact us today to see how we can walk together to see more of God's kingdom in your city as it is in heaven.